Parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante was listening in to that conversation, that press conference, and joins me in the studio. Kweku, they put out some details to justify this particular call. What are these?
So the minority leader goes into the financial statement that was published by the Bank of Ghana. They talk about the huge expenses that were made by the Bank of Ghana for computer expenses, for travel expenses, to buy watches, to give allowances to directors of the bank. They say that this point to the fact that the Bank of Ghana's, the governor and his deputies were out there to mismanage the central bank finances, and they do not deserve to stay in that bank a day longer.
We in the NDC saw the red flags and have consistently warned of the mismanagement of the financial sector by the governor of the central bank and his team of incompetent deputies. This mismanagement was anchored on the jaundiced supervision by Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, who is the brain behind the MPP's economic mismanagement team. This report depicted the catastrophic decline of the Central Bank of Ghana into a bottomless pit. The report revealed the following astonishing facts. 1. The Bank of Ghana recorded a staggering loss of 60.8 billion Ghana cedis, which is equivalent of $6 billion US. This is twice the amount we are to receive from the recent IMF bailout. 60 billion Ghana cedis, representing $6 billion US, meaning this is twice the amount we'll be asking the IMF to give to us. Countless occasions that the Bank of Ghana has been on a dangerous trajectory, and indeed, it has now become a crime scene with the dire consequences for us all. Fellow countrymen and women, after the inept and clueless finance minister overborrowed and got Ghana locked out of the capital market due to our unsustainable debt obligations, the NPP government chose the easy, reckless, lazy, and criminal part of printing money. Dr. Ernest Addison, who is now known as the printer of money, has conspired with members of economic mismanagement team, led by Alhaji Dr. Bawumia and the inept Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, aka One Program, One Bond, to destroy Ghana's central bank. After this dastardly act of overlending to the government by the central bank, they then proceeded to do the unthinkable. And the unthinkable is to write off a whopping 48.4 billion Ghana cedis, about half of Ghana's government indebtedness to the central bank, without parliamentary approval. This is illegal and criminal, and the NDC members of parliament will not allow this to pass. In fact, we will resist this. Directors' remuneration alone, this represents about 87% increase over the previous year's expenditure. Directors' remuneration, 8.6 million Ghana cedis. If you are to compare this to the previous year, this represents 87% increase over the previous year. This simply means that Ghanaians were charged a mismanagement fee to deliver the collapse of the central bank. The Bank of Ghana further claimed to have spent a colossal 357.9 million Ghana cedis on banking supervision expenses for the year 2022 alone. The report further disclosed that the Bank of Ghana spent a whopping 67.9 million Ghana cedis on computers expenses alone, whilst communication expenses also amounted to 32 million Ghana cedis. Communication alone, just to meet the press, they spent 32 million Ghana cedis for 1 year, the year 2022. The report further disclosed that an undisclosed expense of 287.8 million Ghana cedis was paid, undisclosed.
They also made this vote-buying allegation that the Bank of Ghana may be complicit in this.
In fact, they insist that if you look at how government is planning to wipe off this debt of Bank of Ghana's books, it appears these monies are being packed by government appointees ahead of that 2024 election, and that they would not be surprised if some of these key persons all rear their heads ahead of the election to contest either for parliament or for the presidency.
It is important to state that the governor of the Bank of Ghana breached Section 37 of the Bank of Ghana Act 2012, Act 612, and Section 60 of the Bank of Ghana Amendment Act 2016, Act 918. In fact, the governor breached the laws of the central bank, which calls for urgent action against the governor of the central bank. An estimated 850,000 people were further reported by the World Bank recently that this singular act of the Bank of Ghana has pushed them down the poverty line as a result of the hyperinflation that the central bank caused in the year 2022. Clearly, there's blood on the hands of the governor of the central bank and his deputies. It is now obvious that many more members of the Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia government will likely be keeping several more millions of dollars in their bedrooms and building a war chest to illegally buy electoral votes at both party primaries and the upcoming general elections in the year 2024. We will not be surprised that if members of the economic management team involved in this contest makes a strong showing, I won't be surprised at all, because clearly everything shows that maybe it's not only Madam Cecilia Dapaah who has kept some money in her bedrooms. We in the NDC will continue to explore ways of rescuing this country to prevent it from the doom that has befallen several West African countries.
Well, we've been hearing from the Bank of Ghana in the last few days on some of the key issues that we've heard. On the back of that report that showed that indeed the Bank of Ghana was in significant financial challenge. Many have said they are actually broke. Well, the Bank of Ghana has explained that they are really not to blame for the huge losses that they suffered. Listen to Dr. Philip Abredu-Otu, who says you should blame largely the domestic debt exchange.
Yes, but if you look at the numbers, you'd clearly recognize that close to 90% of that loss of 60.8 billion was as a result of the domestic debt exchange. It's purely a domestic debt exchange impact that has run through our balance sheet that has created this whole of 60.8 billion. There were three key items, if you'd permit me to explain. So as a result of the domestic debt exchange, we had a 50% principal haircut on our non-marketable instruments.
And that there is Dr. Philip Abredu-Otu. I want to bring in the minorities ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament. Dr. Isaac Adongo joins us right now. Mr. Adongo, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, thank you very much, Evans, for having me.
You just heard that the Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana say that this is, quote, purely a domestic debt exchange impact. Isn't that what it is?
In fact, that is really what makes it criminal. You know, it is easy to blame everybody else. How did you get involved in a domestic debt exchange when there are rules limiting how much you can give to government? So you run into a problem because you ignored your law, you violated your law, you printed money, you kept denying it, and then your auditors come to say, indeed, you have given 80 billion Ghana cedis to government completely against your law. And now you are saying that you have bent your fingers by violating the law. If you have not given 80 billion to government, would you bother whether there is a debt exchange program or not? You wouldn't bother. The second one is that, why is it that nobody suffered a haircut on its principal, but you did? Throughout the debt exchange program, did anybody suffer any losses on its capital or principal? It was only the coupons. But principals remain intact. So how come you became a Father Christmas?
Because they had to save the entire financial sector from collapse.
They have actually collapsed the financial sector.
They became
Listen
the shock,
to me.
They became the shock absorber for everybody.
It is not their responsibility to manage the fiscal. The man who manages the fiscal and was being ruled by the Fiscal Responsibility Act came to Parliament for a special dispensation to suspend the fiscal rules. You are not governed by that act. You are governed by the Bank of Ghana Act. You say you were helping that man who manages the fiscal to save the economy, violated your law, you were naked, he was covered. I mean, who does that? Really, who does that? That is why Parliament did not dissolve. We were not in a coup d'etat where you said there was no Parliament. Parliament had been working all these years. In fact, very minor issues have brought us from recall to Parliament. He ignored all of that. The principle that he said he has cut, the write-off. So, Evans, if tomorrow everybody is just to be writing off, okay, you just create assets on government, give it to your cronies, and write it off. So you hear that Cocoa Board has written off, ECG written off, GMPC written off, Ghana Water written off. Everybody is to be writing off government funds. Where will we end up? That is why we have laws that says that when it comes to write off, which is 32 billion of what you have reported, you have to come under the Public Financial Management Act because you are a covered entity as defined by that act in Section 102. And that under Section 53 of that act, you cannot write it off or abandon a government claim or obligation without recourse to Parliament. You have to answer question where you got that 32 billion, 80 billion to give to government. You have to tell us. You have to tell us what the 80 billion was used for, out of which you are writing off 32 billion. You have to tell us. You have to tell us what action, what decision went into that decision. Were you thinking that you can recover? Why did you accept that haircut? You have to explain.
Yeah, but Mr.
And the law is that you must get approval. You see, what you are saying is simply saying that if I enter the supermarket and I'm hungry, and I stole bread, and you arrested me, I say, you know, if I hadn't stolen this bread, I would die. Who does that?
But Mensah Dongo, in effect, you agree with the Bank of Ghana that this is not down to mismanagement as you allege in your press statement.
I don't agree. I have just explained to you the mismanagement.
Well, it is
mismanagement
down,
is about respecting your law.
Well, but they say, and to be more specific, that is down largely, and as you've explained there, to the haircut they got, the domestic debt exchange, that they say amounted to some 53.1 billion cedis of the 60.8 that we saw. Significantly down to that, and the numbers prove it.
Explaining to you that, so are you not saying that we should throw away our laws? Because he says so. Does the law not say that you cannot write off public funds? Has he come to Parliament? What is the authority with which he wrote off 32 billion of government obligation? So you go and print money, give it to government, they share it among themselves, then you write it off. Is that what you do? Is that how you manage an economy? Please. He should stop the cock and bull story, because the truth is that, one, they violated the laws in printing and pumping money to the government against their own law. Two, they violated the law in writing off 32 billion without recourse to the Public Financial Management Act and without recourse to Parliament that has the right to pass a resolution with a simple majority to approve that. That is what it is. Any other explanation is a cock and bull story.
But I wonder, if that's the case and you're members of Parliament, why don't you use parliamentary authority to sanction him?
To sanction who?
The governor of the central bank. You are demanding his resignation.
Why? Are you now? I mean, is the government Bank of Ghana telling us the route to use? There are several methods. We have chosen our route.
Yeah, but your
the important thing is that the man. You see, I'm surprised that Evans, you are not even seeing anything wrong with what he's doing.
No, I'm just asking the questions. You said
no,
that
but I'm also asking you. You are a Ghanaian.
Yeah, I am.
The laws are passed. Listen, the inflation is it affecting only me?
But
it is because of this.
You want to hold
the interest rate that he recently increased by 30%. Is it affecting only me?
No, you want to hold him accountable. You've simply asked for him to resign. Meanwhile, you've said he's violated the law. You are members of Parliament. You have the authority to haul him there and use the parliamentary authority to sanction him. You haven't done so. What would a simple call to him to resign do? If he chooses not to resign, then what?
There are several ways of killing a cat. But do you know that criminality doesn't expire? At the right time, if he doesn't resign, he doesn't purge himself. He has several other breaches. This is just one. several other violations of the law with impunity. At the right time, we will isolate and deal with them individually.
But in the meantime, you're simply asking him to resign.
In the meantime, this is the path we have taken. And you as a Ghanaian who is already suffering it, I you to join us to get him to resign. Because the law protects him. That is why we are asking you to join us to fight him to resign. Then at the right time, when we feel that we are really properly empowered, we will take the appropriate actions against him. I expect you to be putting the questions of law to him. I expect you to be asking him, why is he writing off 32 billion against the law? He should show you the authority with which he wrote off 32 billion. We are not bothered about impairment. Those are accounting restatements that will reflect the true value on maturity. So we don't really worry because that is our IFRS 9 standard. But write off, please. You can't just, that's a dream. You can't just write off a public fund or public asset without recourse to the law.
You've told us.
And the law is quite clear. Come to Parliament and get a majority resolution to go and do that. You can't sit in your office and write off public funds. Then everybody will be writing off. You just create money, give it to your friends, and write off.
Yeah, you've said that if he doesn't resign, you will occupy the central bank. Is that even realistic? I mean, we've sat in this country and heard people bandy that word around, occupy that, occupy. Has it worked ever before? And you will leave your parliamentary duties and occupy, central bank for how long? Is that a realistic approach to take?
It's part of our parliamentary duty to protect the people of Ghana. Well, that is our parliamentary duty, to protect the people of Ghana.
It's the same minority that told us that you will be boycotting the House and supporting your colleagues in court so far as they are in court. And just two weeks on, you made a significant U-turn. When we hear you make these bold pronouncements and we look at your record, you cannot blame us if we doubt a bit.
No, you need to ask him. Because the law is before you, and the law was passed for all of us. Why do you not ask him, put the law to him? And you are taking this kind of cock and bull story, and you are even regurgitating it back to me. That he says domestic debt exchange program. I didn't buy government debt, have I suffered any impairment? And the laws are quite clear that there's a limit to what you can do. You ignore the law and got your fingers bent. And you say that is the reason. When we're saying it here, were they not writing long essays when I was writing to them and warning them? You were in this country. They were writing long essays, calling us, telling us it's overdraft. How come overdraft is now being restructured and written off? So you should be asking him the right questions. You are not helping the matter.
Well, Mr. Azo,
because the law is with you, and I've quoted the law. Call him, ask him. This is what the law is saying. Why have you disrespected the law?
You charge the media to asking the right questions, but you are a member of parliament, a ranking member, clothed with legislative authority to hold the finance minister, hold the Bank of Ghana governor, and demand these answers. You haven't done so.
And I'm explaining to you that how many times have I now written to the governor threatening before he came to parliament?
But why must you
and I'm explaining to you that
on your side to hold?
What we intend to do is part of our responsibility to call him to account.
Grateful. That is the ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament, Isaac Adongo, there on the minority's decision tonight, demanding, in fact, giving a 21-day ultimatum to the central bank governor and his two deputies to resign or face a series of political actions, including the occupation of the central bank until he's forced to give up that job, not only him, but his two deputies as well. I want to bring in Professor Lord Mensah. He's Associate Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana. Prof, you've seen the numbers in this BOG audit and the report that we've been reading, the 60.8 billion cedi loss. You've heard the minority. The call is he must resign. His two deputies must go. Based on what you've read, is that call justified?
Yeah, Ivan, good evening and good evening to our listeners. I mean, it is justified. I mean, finance, law, and economics, they go together. In fact, where laws does not work, you don't really see very good financial trend. Can you hear me, Evans?
Loud and clear, sir.
Right. So where law does not work, you don't see very good financial trends. and you will not get very good economy. So from where I sit, it is a good call. Now let's take, the guidance and the operations of the central bank. We know very well that when we talk about the autonomy of the central bank, it's paramount. And we have two types of autonomy that we're looking at here. We know the governance autonomy and then operational autonomy. For the governance, we know very well that it has been compromised by the structure of our constitution, because it's the president that appoints, the governor, and then to some extent the deputies. So from that one, we have compromised it, and we can say that yes. But the last straw that we're holding on was the operational autonomy, which I think the current, governor and his team seem to overlook that, and I see an abuse of that autonomy in the sense that as a central bank, you don't meddle in fiscal activities. You don't print money to finance government policies. No.
Even when the economy is in crisis, and if you don't do that,
available funds through the monetary structures.
Yeah, I mean,
but
Prof,
let's take this scenario, Evans. Hold on. Let's take this scenario. We are looking at a situation where the government is saying that we owe banks, so we're going to restructure your debt by cutting down your coupons. In the same vein, the central bank, which is supposed to channel money through the banks for economic activities, is also printing money for the government. I mean, if you look at this and clearly you look at the economic principles behind it, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, but Prof, I was asking you. I mean, you say they cannot print, they cannot do what they've done, but you're saying that even when the entire financial sector is at risk, which is what the Bank of Ghana is explaining, they were compelled to do, and so become the shock absorber for everybody else. You're saying they shouldn't still do that, even when that is a risk they have to take.
Very good question. The Bank of Ghana must always ensure that it uses monetary channels to get things done. The monetary channels is always through the banks. Nowhere, nothing else. Bank of Ghana cannot say we are printing money for government to finance its deficit, and those monies will end up into maybe social policies that the returns are not immediate. Do you know, as a bank, I'm talking about the Bank of Ghana, if you give money out, there should be a time point where you should expect the money back. After the money has operated in the economy for some time, there is a point where you must recoup the money back as a central bank. So for the central bank to print money and at a point in time say we are waiving off, that money, it's quite, questionable.
Okay. Prof, thank you very much. Professor Lord Mensah is Associate Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana. Where do you stand on this debate? Do you side with the minority, asking the governor of the central bank to resign, or you're with those who will say, well, as the Bank of Ghana itself has said, that this is really not their fault. It's just a result of the domestic debt exchange. Share with me your thoughts. 055-1111-997.
And welcome to News Night. In the next 60 minutes, police prosecutors maintain former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah is the owner of more than $1 million stolen from her residence, as a fresh charge sheet is filed in court today, disregarding the Attorney General's advice, which says the money belongs to her deceased brother. We have the latest as the state drops charges against one of the suspects. We have all the details from the court. Also tonight, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbing disagrees with recent Supreme Court ruling prohibiting traditional leaders from participating in active politics, as he describes the constitutional provision as a means for selective justice.
For others, but I don't think that you can be voted for, and you call that rule of law, selective justice.
There's more as the Omahine of Esekado chastises Parliament for lack of commitment to conclude investigations into corruption allegations leveled against the House.
The Minister for Defense must be reminded here that he has an obligation.
Look at the COVID thing that was done at the airport. Parliament should have probed. It's sitting down looking at me. We heard about the American thing. What happened?
Also tonight, 2 teachers arrested in the central region for attempting to smuggle in unanswered exams questions into an examination center in the ongoing BECE. Also, Education Minister sets in motion processes to sanction heads of schools violating laid down procedures in the exams.
WAEC exams say you free and the free senior high school. BECE are free. WASI are free.
WAEC exam is free and the free senior high school. BECE is also free. We'll deal with him. We'll ask him why he collected the money.
Also, a scrutiny of over 600,000 people sitting for this year's exams points to an increase in female candidates. We have details of that.
And in business, winnings on sport bettings and national lottery to attract 10% tax from August 15.
And in sports, Ghana Athletics Association assures of a good replacement for injured Azamati ahead of the World Athletics Championship in Budapest.
And later we'll be in Niger and give you the Ghanaian angle to this, where we're hearing from the minority demanding that government seeks parliamentary approval before they contribute troops for any military intervention in that West African country.
The Minister for Defense must be reminded here that he has an obligation to seek parliamentary approval before Ghana can participate in any military intervention on foreign soil.
Join us with your views and comments here on Newsnight. 055 1111 997. My name is Evans Mensah.
I am MFA Pao. Please stay on for details.
Let's start with that constantly evolving Cecilia Dapaah scandal. The police prosecutors today have filed a fresh charge sheet in that particular case involving a significant amount of missing cash from her home. Now, a key aspect of the case maintained in the new document is the ownership of the $1 million and 300,000 euros said to have been stolen from the residence of the former minister.
So as you may be aware, the police has always maintained in court documents that these sums belonged to the former minister. Well, the Attorney General's review of the document pointed out that the minister had told the police it was money belonging to her deceased brother that was handed to her for safekeeping. Well, we have a copy of the latest documents filed in court, and Richard Kujunyako was there for us. He joins us in studio with all the details. First, Richard, let's talk about the ownership of the missing sums as stated in the previous charge sheet and the current one.
Well, let me first. So the prosecution has for the first time split the $1 million into two, $800,000 and $200,000, and they have maintained that all the money belongs to Madam Cecilia Dapaah, the former sanitation minister.
Well, we also note that the previous one had her husband's missing suit stated as count 7. That has been taken out?
Yes, it's been taken out. So it brings the questions whether there were suit at all, whether there wasn't any suit, and who even took the suit as well. So there wasn't any suits present in the new charge. And
just to add to that, the AG's advice also there was a discrepancy around the same suit. Numbers were different from the earlier police charge sheet. The police charge stated 6 suits were stolen, a total of $3,000. The AG's advice said it was 5. Coming to 2,500. Now it's completely missing.
Exactly. So there was nothing like that.
And it's interesting also, Evans, that with the ownership of the missing sums, the AG's advice mentioned that the money belongs to the deceased brother. Are you saying that even with the new charge sheet, it still maintains that the money belongs to Cecilia Dapaah?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the number of people who were brought into court today.
So, 7 persons were brought in court today. Patience Butchie, Sarah J., that's the lactating mother, Benjamin Suwa, Malik Dauda, Christiana Achab, who is also a lactating mother, Joe Pomeri, and Yahaya Sumaila. The 8th person, Franklin Saraku, is currently at large. And the 2, Patience Butchie and Sarah J., they've been charged with stealing and conspiracy to steal. But if you look at count 7 to count 13, they have also been charged with dishonestly receiving.
And these are new names that have been added to the original case.
Exactly. So in court today, the father of Patience Butchie, you know, we've been talking about the fact that 50,000 Ghana cedis was given to the father. But today the court discharged him because in the new charge sheet, his name was not present.
Okay, that's an issue we'll talk about. But let's look at the argument of the prosecution in this particular case.
So the prosecution maintains that they need more time to uncover a lot of things that are hidden, because he says that from the last agenda date to now, they have been able to locate 4 houses. They have retrieved some some 2 vehicles, Honda Acura vehicles valued at 600,000 Ghana cedis, and they have also made 2 further arrests. And so the court should give them ample time to investigate so that they can come properly before the court.
Okay, so you've been talking about the accused person's father, Patience Butche's father, and the amount he received. And today the case has been, there was a case against him. He was discharged amongst others. What was actually the case that was brought before it for him to be discharged? We know it was in the Attorney General's recommendations as well.
So when they came to court, in fact, the old charge sheet was dropped. So it was substituted with a new one. And the new one is what we have spoken about earlier, that the suit is also missing in the new one. And so in the new one as well, Patience Butche's father is not, the name is not there. That means that there is nothing against him in the current trial.
And there's been reaction of the accused persons.
Yes, the accused persons are saying that, well, the people have already spent 1 month in police custody, and 2 of them are lactating mothers, and it will be unfair to continue keeping them there. And so they need some time for the mothers to bond with their children. And so based on that, the court agreed with them and then granted bail in the sum of 1 million Ghana cedis, so that they, with 3 sureties, so the people, the mothers, and this were to Sarah Butche, Sarah J, and then the other lactating mother.
So their pleas have not been taken, and prosecution opposed the bail application, given the reason that they have not finished with their investigation and they are still ongoing, carrying on investigations. So in respect, however, the court granted A2 and A5 because they are lactating mothers. The court admitted them to bail to the sum of 1 million Ghana cedis with 3 sureties to be justified. And the court further ordered that we filed a formal application for bail to be moved on the 22nd. I'm representing A5, A6, and A7.
Well, so that's lawyers for the accused person. But did the court grant any other bail, and when exactly are we back in court?
So the rest, they were told by the court to go and apply formally for bail application, and so they will be granted bail later. But now we are back in court on the 22nd of August, where we expect that the various argument will come, whether the police have effected more arrests or they have uncovered more in this trial.
And could you, if you're just joining us on this evolving Cecilia Dapaah scandal tonight, as we've just been reporting, police prosecutors are maintaining that the former sanitation minister is the owner of that $1 million that allegedly was stolen from her home. And what you've detailed for us in the charge sheet and how it compares with the AG's advice that we saw raises further questions. One, the police have reflected one side of the detail we saw in the AG's document, which is that the $1 million that allegedly was stolen, it's not $1 million as one bulk.
In whole, yes.
It is actually a division of $800,000 and $200,000. They have separated the amounts now.
Yes.
So that is the first action they've taken today in this charge sheet that reflects the AG's advice. However, on the substantive matter of who that money belongs to, they disagree still with the AG's advice. They've maintained that if you put the 2 amounts together, you get $1 million, and it still belongs to Cecilia Dapaah. It is important to state, though, that if you read the AG's advice, they had said Cecilia Dapaah in her initial complaint to the police stated the money was $800,000. It was in the box and belonged to the deceased brother. And then in a second report to the police, where she now wrote a statement. This is on the 4th of July, 3 days later. Again, she wrote down that the $800,000 belonged to the deceased brother, and the $200,000, she didn't state who that money belonged to. And as we've been reporting today, the prosecutors, post the advice, have gone to court to insist if put the monies together, it still comes to $1 million and it belongs to her.
Yes, that's correct.
Kojo, thank you very much. Lots of questions still on the subject of Madame Cecilia Dapaah and the monies allegedly missing from her home. I want to bring in Augustine JC, lawyer for Sarah J. Jengfi. Is Augustine Jengfi, pardon me, is lawyer for Sarah J., one of the accused persons in this particular case, and joins us on the line right now. Mr. Jengfi, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. How is your client faring tonight?
Well, she's fine. She's fine. Thank you very much. And since I left, they've taken her back to cell. So we just making preparation to arrange for people to execute the bill for him, if possible, tomorrow.
Take it back to jail, I assume, because she still hasn't met the bail conditions.
No, just looking at the bail condition, to me, it was so harsh, and it's not something you can get it just now and then. We have to go back, see people who are willing to sign for that bill. So we have to do that either today, tomorrow, or the next day. But her relatives are ready to assist her in executing the bill.
And you still insist that your client took no money?
Oh, please. I don't want to be repeating this. He has not taken any money. So they have not taken any money. Please, do you have the amended 4th charge sheet? Do you have it?
We've just been detailing that. Is that any part of it that is of interest to you?
You read it critically, and you see if there is any nexus properly connecting A2 to the alleged crime. The connection is not there. Please, you study it carefully and see.
Well, that's surprising because really we've seen what happened with Patience Butche's father. So if you properly so-called, if you say that your client is not supposed to be there, how is it that he's still in that case?
Well, but at this stage, it is all allegation and it should be proven. So we're going to go through the processes of proving the case in court. And indeed, we are confident and we know that our client has not taken any money, not at all. If you read the charge, the brief facts attached to the charge sheet very well, you will see that there are caps. You see some place that said, my client gave money to A5 or A4 through A1. Mother, what kind of statement is this? She gave money to A4 through A1. A1, who is alleged to have taken such a huge money, my client gave money through her to be given to A4. Please, sometimes when we read facts like this, our hearts bleed because the nexus is not clear. You are charging A1 for stealing. Then you've charged my client too for stealing. And you said, my client gave money to A4 through A1. Why don't you straight away say that A1 gave money to A4?
Let me ask you, I mean, we've talked about your client, Sarah J. She's a lactating mother. She's backing police cells. You're hoping to meet the bail conditions. Where's the baby?
The baby at the moment is with her sister. Right after court, they came to my office and they said the sister has taken the baby back home. Normally what they do is they take the baby to the south for breastfeeding in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, then send her back. But today, according to them, they said they have no option than to compel to start giving her food, even though that's the first time she's taking it. So they prepare some light porridge for her.
And this is because she's, from what I understand, 6 months old and ideally should be on breast milk. But now because of the situation, they forced to give her real solid food.
That is only the case. That is only the case. Because you can't just go, you suck your breast small, they take you back home, you come back. No, this is not that.
How confident are you that the bail conditions will be met tonight, at least, or you're not too confident that she may possibly sleep in police cells again?
Well, if after 2-3 days we are not able to meet the conditions, we want to make the effort tomorrow. If we are 2-3 days we are not able to meet the conditions, I'll go back for review of the bail conditions. But well, let them start and let's see.
Augustine, thank you very much. Augustine James Fee is a lawyer for Sarah J, one of the accused, and she's a lactating mother, still in police custody because, as you just heard from the lawyer, she's not managed yet to meet the conditions. And if you're just joining us, the major development on this Cecilia Dapaah matter is that the police, they were back in court today, and they are insisting and maintaining in the fresh charge sheet that Cecilia Dapaah, the former sanitation minister, is the owner of more than $1 million. In fact, $1 million. But they have reflected one of the key pieces of advice in the AG's document, which is that amount is divided into two, which is $200,000 and then $800,000. But they insist if you put that together, it still comes to $1 million, and it belongs to her.
Okay. Well, let's do other stories still related to the judiciary. And Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbing has disagreed with the Supreme Court's recent ruling on Article 2761 of the Constitution, which prohibits traditional leaders from engaging in active party politics. The Supreme Court, in that recent interpretation of the law, said although traditional leaders can endorse the policies of political candidates, they cannot endorse the candidates or put themselves up for election.
Well, the Speaker has been addressing a forum in the Western region to mark Parliament's uninterrupted 30 years democracy. Speaker Bagbing says the constitutional provision has only succeeded in preventing traditional leaders from participating in national development.
And you heard it here, that elections to political office has now become public auctions, and money has taken center stage. Violence has been introduced into our politics more than we began. Worst of it all, the reflection or mirror or the representation of our culture and tradition has been hit hard with a constitutional provision against active participation of chiefs in politics. I don't understand what that meant. The Supreme Court have tried to explain it. Active participation. What is politics about? It's about development. What are chiefs and queens supposed to lead us to do? To develop. And then you have prohibited them and say vote for others, but don't think that you can be voted for. And you call that rule of law, selective justice.
Well, guess what, MFA? Also at the same forum was your Manheni of a Sikado traditional area, Nana Kobna Nketia V, called out Parliament for the lack of commitment to conclude investigations into bribery allegations leveled against their house. Now, Parliament came under intense criticism last year after there were claims that a wealthy businessman tried to influence some MPs to rescind their demand for the dismissal of the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Remember the Ken Must Go controversy. Well, Nana Kabuna Nketia says the delay in concluding that particular matter just shows the Parliament is not committed to fight corruption.
You know, look at the COVID thing. That was done at the airport. Parliament should have probed. It's sitting down looking at me. We heard about the Ameri thing. What happened? Parliament didn't do nothing. You know, certain things, the spirit of the Constitution must be maintained by Parliament. We, in region, for example, have been complaining we don't have representation in cabinet. And its Parliament should see to this, that spirit is carried on. The spirit of it. We are looking for creativity. It is not the priests and the malams who hold the morality of this country. It is Parliament. They hold our ethics and way of being. If Ghana is corrupt, then Parliament is not doing its duty. You all remember the story about this one bag big man carried money around to do, and everybody in Parliament was quiet. Why? Nobody probed. We can't sit down and go on like this. We want to feel we belong. We want to see that our ethics are there. We want to be brothers with everybody.
Well, accepting the shortfalls, MP for Elembele, Emmanuel Amakofibua, who's a deputy minority leader, has urged the minority in Parliament to uphold the national interest in its dealings.
Whereas Parliament as an institution performs legislative, financial, deliberative, representational and oversight roles, much more is expected of the minority group beyond the argument that the minority proves to be to the people that they are trusted alternative to the government of the day. And I'm proud to say that the minority in the 8th Parliament has tried its best to ensure that the government is accountable to the people. From the approval of ministerial appointments to the approval of financial statements and economic policy of government, imposition of taxes, approval of loans, legislation oversight, the minority has ensured that the executive is responsive and accountable to the people. Of course, there has been instances where some of the role that has been played by the minority has been questioned. And as we say in Parliament, the minority will always have its say, and the majority will have their way. Indeed, many have questioned the consensus politics of the minority and why the minority seems sometimes to agree with the majority on issues. While we acknowledge the concerns of the public in this regard, let me emphasize that the minority in Parliament must show itself to be responsible and be able to act in the national interest.
Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa there. Well, staying on matters relating to politics, the New Patriotic Party, as they embark on the journey to select its flag bearer, will stay in the Western region, and the candidate that's from there, Joe Gatti, is confident of securing a spot in the final five, paving the way for the main delegates Congress later this year. As Samuel Kojo-Brace is on our political desk, he has more.
I want to be president so I can bless the people of Ghana. And I will pray that God will bless me so that I can bless them.
As the ruling New Patriotic Party gears up for its special delegate congress, former Railways Development Minister Joe Gatti is intensifying his campaign to lead the party into the 2024 general elections. He says he is confident of being part of the last five to head towards the main delegates congress.
But be rest assured that God willing, I said be rest assured as God willing, as long as the sun rises and the sun sets, when we vote for the Special Delegates Congress, Joe Gatti will be among the first five.
During his tenure as a railways minister, he played a pivotal role in the construction of the railway line from Tema to Mpakadan, featuring a steel bridge over the Volta Lake, enhancing connectivity and trade opportunities for the nation. He says his background has equipped him with a deep understanding of the country's developmental needs.
In fact, everything that I've seen, everything that happened when I traveled for the past 5 days, everything that has happened to me since I joined this party in 1992 and set the party, has convinced me beyond reasonable doubt that I am prepared for this time, a time such as this, where we need a man such as me to rule the country and bring blessing to Ghana.
He believes his extensive experience and strong track record make him a compelling choice to represent the MPP in the 2024 general elections and serving as a source of inspiration for millions around the world.
I'm going to spend my time thinking about the fact that a teacher's son from nowhere has become president. I'm going to spend my time thinking about the hope it will give to people, to millions of people, millions of Ghanaians who come from homes such as mine. Somebody whose father died when he was 6 can have the audacity of hope. Without education, where would I be? I'll think about how somebody has been through public service for so long. I'll think about how God has prepared me for the occasion. I'm ready to go. I'm totally ready to go. That is what I think about every day, not about another thing.
With a focus on inclusive policies and developmental strategies, he envisions a future where every Ghanaian can benefit from the nation's growth and progress.
We will transform this nation. We together will transform this nation. We shall take this nation to the next level. Everything that my hand has touched, by God's grace, has been blessed. Amen.
As someone with experience in the MPP flag bearership race, the Esikadoke 10 legislator has a message for the delegates.
The message to the delegates is that their candidate is Joe Gatti. I'll be coming to them. I've gone to some of them. I'll be coming to each of them. And I want to assure them that by the time they finish listening to me, they will come to the conclusion that there's one candidate, and his name is Joe Gatti.
Joe Gatti's bid to become the MPP's flag bearer is not merely a personal aspiration, but a commitment to serve his party and his country with renewed vigor. As the nation watches this process unfold, the question remains, will Joe Gatti be the one to lead the MPP into the 2024 general elections and potentially become Ghana's next president? For Joy News, I am Samuel Kojo-Brace.
And a few of your messages on our WhatsApp console now, MF.
Evans, where are the children rights advocates? The baby's right to life is important, and it's talking about Sarah J., the lactating mother in the Cecilia Dapaah case. Musa Abatua in Aswasi says Akufo-Addo and Bawumia's administration is entertaining corruption and corruption-related issues. Attorney General has been exposed trying to cover up Cecilia Dapaah's stolen money. She should tell us how she came by this quantum of foreign money and why she kept it in her house. And we have this one also says, okay, I'll go down. In fact, they have to prosecute former sanitation minister and her housemates who appeared before the court today. I pray that you make your messages very clear. And this one, I fully support the NDC's call for the Bank of Ghana governor's resignation. In fact, the call is even late, looking at of the Bank of Ghana and the NPP government to run down our economy with reckless borrowing. And this is from Ayuba in Yagbong. And more of your messages coming in. This one from Nana Ekuyamwa Boating in Central Ablekuma says it is very obvious that the lawyer will not confirm that his client stole the money. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that the ladies in question made away with the said amount owned by Cecilia Dapaah. Some of your messages that you sent in.
Still ahead, 2 teachers arrested in the central region for attempting to smuggle answered exam questions into an examination center in the ongoing BECE. Meanwhile, the education minister is setting in motion processes to sanction heads of schools violating laid-down procedures in the exams.
WAEC exams say you're free and the free senior high school. BEC are free. WASI are free.
WAEC exam is free and the free senior high school. BEC is also free. We'll deal with him. We'll ask him why he collected the money.
Also, seek parliamentary approval before you contribute troops for any military intervention in Niger. Minority warns government, as it says, any force approach will be disastrous.
The Minister for Defense must be reminded here that he has an obligation to seek parliamentary approval before Ghana can participate in any military intervention on foreign soil.
We have more as a coup leaders turn away high-profile ECOWAS mission to that particular country. We'll tell you what happened when they attempted to land. George Afes here with details from the world of
business.
So
if you should place a bet in any of these sports games, I know you love your Manchester United, you should win about 60,000 Ghana cedis cash. 10% of that will be paid to the state as withholding tax. So the winnings that you make, a bet of maybe the company, if it's Evans Bet or Super Bet or whatever, and you place a bet maybe 1,000 Ghana cedis,
so
and you
win me the 60,000, they'll take away 10% for the state.
Of that for the state, and that will take effect from August 15, 2023.
That, by the way, is tithe.
Well, other news as well. The National Information Technology Agency pushes for regulation of artificial intelligence. We'll be getting you more details on that one. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay. You welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, winnings on sport betting as well as the National Lottery are expected to attract 10% withholding tax from August 15, 2023. This is because the Ghana Revenue Authority is set to begin enforcing revised tax laws on the gaming industry. James Shen has the rest of the story.
The application of this levy as part of a broader review of the income tax on gaming and lottery operations in the country. The Ghana Revenue Authority in a circular said the passage of the income tax amendment will now result in a 10% on the gross winnings of persons that involved in sports betting and lottery winnings. The withholding tax deduction, according to the authority, applies to winnings paid or payable by private lotto operators, sports betting operators, casino operators, route operators, remote interactive games operators, operators of marketing promotions, and operators of other games of chance. Prior to this, some operators in the industry, including casinos, route operations, and marketing promotions, started the implementation of this policy on June 1, 2023. Sports betting and private lotto operations are also expected to commence the implementation from August 15, 2023. So, for instance, If you placed a bet of 15,000 Ghana cedis in a football match and you ended up winning 60,000 cedis, the application of tax will minus your original stake and subject the remaining amount of 45,000 cedis as the tax. This should mean that 4,500 Ghana cedis will be the amount that you're likely to pay to the state.
James Shen with that report. Now, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is charging government to tread cautiously over the planned rollout of the cylinder recirculation model from next month. The National Petroleum Authority is set to roll out the model from September this year, which seeks to centralize the distribution and sales of LPG in the country for domestic consumption. Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Duncan Amoah, tells Joy Business the whole program is bound to fail because of the current structure.
I am not sure the public is as educated about this as the NPA might be thinking. I am also not sure that the structures we have in place would be able to support the mass rollout that we are looking at doing for in September. So we would caution the NPA to hasten slowly. It's not a bad program, except to say that if you would need to see whether it is a superior program to what you have currently or not, we would caution that they do not force the existing retailer plants that we have dotted across the communities and the country to shut down operations because we want to embark on a cylinder recirculation module program. We think that they would need to hasten slowly. Again, don't kill the existing setup that you have, which allows the teacher, the trotro driver to buy as much as their pocket is able to afford at the time.
Duncan Amoah is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. The Bank of Ghana is reminding players in the remittance business as well as the forex market players to strictly abide by the market rules. The regulator is, for instance, noting that the dedicated electronic money issuers and enhanced payment service providers should observe the practice where a designated account for remittance is settled with a local bank. The Bank of Ghana in a release also noted these accounts should be domiciled here in Ghana. Meanwhile, forex brokers are also asked to stick to the rules that they cannot deal directly with corporate entity. They also argue, the Bank of Ghana argue that they shall also not buy or sell foreign exchange for their own account to hold or borrow or lend foreign exchange to an authorized market participant. The National Information Technology Agency is pushing for the regulation to deal with emerging technologies like the artificial intelligence. Executive Director of the agency, Richard Otrifosu, says they will ensure the desired growth in the country. He was speaking at the launch of the National ICT Week and World Tech Forum today, aimed at showcasing various innovations in the sector.
It is right now. In fact, there's a strategy document before the minister on AI. We work with GIZ and other partners to come up with this document. There's a data governance document, strategy document before the minister. Then there's the digital economy policy document. It's such a critical point you've made that we cannot continue to use data that the white person has collected and has created algorithms for. It won't help us as Ghanaians. So we've got to continue to have that dialogue.
Richard Otrifosu is the Director General of the National Information Technology Agency. Now, EcoBank says it will continue to deepen relationship with its customers to aid the expansion of the bank's operations going forward. Executive Director and Head of Consumer Banking, Dr. Edward Boche, says his outfit will come up with various innovative packages to give back to customers. He was speaking at the final draw of the EcoBank Double Salary Promo Reloaded.
This is not the end of the journey, it's the end of the promotion, but the account itself continues, the benefits to the account continues, and the other events and activities that EcoBank would continue to have for its clients would continue. So perhaps, as they say, watch the space. We'll be doing a lot more. We are quite glad with the number of customers that have come on board because of this, and I think the pledge that we can make to our client base is that we will continue to excite you, would continue to come up with new ideas to keep you happy.
Dr. Edward Boche is the Executive Director and Head of Consumer Banking at EcoBank and MFI and Evans. The story might interest you because video communications company, that is Zoom, which was synonymous for remote work during the pandemic, has asked staff to return to the office. The firm says it believes that the structured hybrid approach, which most persons are allowed to work twice a week, might be good, as the latest push by a major firm to roll back the flexible work policy. Now, Amazon and Disney are also among the firms that have reduced the remote work. So the company that was synonymous for actually...
Yeah, they got us here.
You know, now they are all asking their workers to come back to the office. And if to the stock market, if you're a shareholder in MTN, you're down by a peso, and it's now worth 1 Ghana cedi, 53 pesos. So let's get back to the office, Evans.
We're already in the office. Welcome back. As we are telling them, thank you very much, George. And you're so live, your News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. It's the second day of this year's Basic Education Certificate Examination. That's the BEC. And already there have been a number of exam malpractices related to rest, with the latest involving 2 teachers in the central region. According to the police, they attempted to smuggle into the examination hall some solved examination questions to candidates at the center.
Well, so according to the police statement, this happened at Dunkwa Secondary Technical Center in the Upper Dinshra East Municipality in the Central Region. The 2 suspects, Albert Edujan and Yao Adadai, tutors of Peeble Calvary and Oxford Suntec schools, respectively, were arrested when they attempted to smuggle into the examination hall some solved examination questions to some candidates. Well, this is beyond appall, I should say. Now, both suspects are in custody and will be put before the court, and the police is, however, cautioning the public against indulging in examination malpractices in the ongoing BEC. We know yesterday we've been reporting that 4 other persons were also arrested in this malpractices related offences as well.
Already, we've been hearing from the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Duchum, who has set in motion processes to sanction heads of schools violating laid-down procedures in the ongoing exams. He's been speaking to a sister station at Dome FM. The Education Minister talks about the Buduata case, where the headmaster, Richard Uhu Nyagbe, failed to register some pupils, even though he took money from them, leaving them stranded at the start of the exams. This was yesterday. He has since directed the GES to take immediate action.
WAEC exams, say you're free, and the free senior high school. BEC, are you free? WASI, are you free?
WAEC exam is free and the free senior high school. BEC is also free. WASI is also free. I heard that a headmaster had collected monies from some candidates. The headmaster must have extorted parents of these people. I will meet with WAEC on it. Also, the Ghana Education Service will deal with him. We'll ask him why he collected the monies, because we pay WAEC directly, despite the economic challenges, and nobody is supposed to pay. His matter is very serious.
WAEC for direct. For BEC, any WASI, or be our public school, be anyhow to your school fees, or to your registration fees. And the honor seven days so far.
And MFA, you remember yesterday we reported, and according to WAEC, that they will struggle to process and mark the papers once the exams are done, including the WASI. Well, we've been hearing from the Education Minister explaining today the monies will be released.
I met with WAEC yesterday. Last week, we paid 40 million Ghana cedis for WASI, but it is a process. We will pay them.
Okay.
As the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Duchum, unfortunately, Evans, in the Ashanti region, a husband prevented his wife from writing the exams, plus a number of centres recording absenteeism. Emmanuel Brightcreek, who has been monitoring the situation, here's his report.
Absenteeism has been a general trend at a number of examination centres in the Asokore Mampong and Oforiko municipalities. At the KNUST SHS and Kumasi Academy, at least 3 students at different centres under the school were recorded to have absented themselves. Their reasons for absenteeism are, however, yet to be established. Officials from the local Teachers Association have been monitoring the conduct of the exams in the area. General Secretary of NAT Kumasi Sub-Metro B, Theophilus Minta explains a student was prevented by the husband to sit for the exam.
Some of them do not have reason. Some of them, they have traveled abroad. Some of them too, they are married and then they don't want to come and write.
They are married?
Yes. Yesterday there was an instance that a lady is married and then the husband doesn't want her to come and write the exam, so she did not come. I also observed one lady yesterday that she was pregnant and also writing the exams, and that was recommendable.
With a perennial case of exam malpractice, some supervisors are convinced the recent serialization of the examination has helped address the misconduct.
This time around, we've not encountered that intimidation of teachers trying to come and do whatever they want. You understand? So with the advent of the serialization, I think it will help. When we were at the university, we used to do it. Somebody is sitting by you, your question 1 is his question 8. So there's no need, you understand? So I think the serialization will help. The YX started it 3 years ago, but this year, I think they've expanded it to cover almost all the people. So far, so good, and it's working.
Meanwhile, some centers are challenged with healthcare provision for sick candidates. Some supervisors explain they have to improvise in caring for them.
Yesterday, for instance, we had a student who had a severe headache, and then we promised to get them some paracetamol, but we couldn't get some. And then we had no one to send, so we got them something. I got the students some water too.
That's Emmanuel Bright-Kweku's report. Here in Accra, Jackie and Sumayebwa had an interaction with these confident pupils.
Fantabulous.
I was super happy when I saw the questions.
Okay.
Like, I was overjoyed. Everything he taught us came, from practicals to essay parts, everything came. So I believe I'll get 9 ones and I'll make my parents proud. Like
glory be to God, some of the questions came and we could answer. I and my colleagues, we could answer very much. Yeah. All right. Today is your third paper. What paper did you write today?
Science.
Science.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you encounter any challenges along the line?
Small. Like the 1D, it was really tough there.
Jackie may have spoken to only male pupils this time, but the reality, Evans, is that there are more females sitting for this year's exams than previously seen. Kofi J of our research desk gives us a breakdown of the figures and relevant analysis and comparison. Kofi, let's first go through this year's numbers. Out of the 600,000, how many males and how many females?
So out of the over 600,000 candidates who sat for this year's BEC, 50.01% of them are females, while 49.99% are males.
Now let's look at the trend analysis for the past decade. What does it look like?
So in 2014, for instance, the share of male candidates stood at almost 53%, with just a little over 47% being females. This gap has gradually reduced over the past 10 years. Currently, we have more females than males, and between 2022 and 2023, female candidates participating in the BEC has gone up by 9.12%, with a corresponding just 8.4% growth for males.
Okay, I'm sure you can hear the excitement in my voice about that.
Girl power.
But let's bring in the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Mr. Kofi Asare. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsnight. So is this trend as a result of some deliberate policy, or it just so happens that more and more girls are pushing harder all by themselves?
Obviously, it's as a result of a deliberate policy by government, with support from development partners, civil society, media, all stakeholders, in support of girls' education. And years and years of girls' education, advocacy, service delivery is obviously yielding the increase in participation of girls in the BECE. And if you look further at the data, you realize that between 2014 and this year, as the number of WASI candidates increased from 422,000 to 600,000, you realize that the percentage increase for boys was 29%. But during the same period, a 10-year period, the percentage increase for girls was 40.5%. It tells you that gradually girls were increasing in their participation year on year since 2014. And we are happy that we are seeing this result as a result of the investment in girls' education.
Well, maintaining the trend is key, but whilst doing that also, there's a concern of leaving boys behind. Are we working on that?
Obviously, government's targets in the education strategic plan to ensure that all who enroll in basic schools complete by 2030. And this includes both boys and girls. And so the challenge to ensure that the 6,000 more boys who existed in 2012 when this particular cohort enrolled, are all available to come along. For that to be achieved, we need to work at the factors that reduce the survival rate of girls and boys as they travel the 11-year basic education journey. Infrastructure development, infrastructure upgrading is key, and also ensuring that we have adequate teaching and learning materials and poverty is reduced are all critical, ensuring that all girls and boys who enroll in kindergarten 1 complete junior high school 3.
Okay, we're grateful. That's Kofi Asare with Africa Education Watch.
Let's do sports now. Ms. Bao is here with the latest. Hello, Ms. Bao.
Yeah, hello, Evans. And of course, the World Athletics Championship is just a few weeks away, just about 2 to 3 weeks away. It's happening in Hungary, Budapest. And of course, one of Ghana's finest athletes is going to be missing out, Benjamin Azamati. He is the national 100-meter record holder. And he was due to compete in the 4x100 meter relay and the individual 100-meter event, but he will not be there due to injury. Well, we've been interacting with the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Athletics Association, Bao Fuseni, and he's been assuring that a good replacement will be in place for injured Benjamin Azamati ahead of the World Athletics Championship. Of Ghana Athletics assuring that Benjamin Azamati will be replaced and an equally good athlete will be put there. Well, let me just take you to the Women's World Cup now, and Africa's hope of making to the quarterfinals is completely out because Morocco, they suffered a heavy 4-0 defeat to France in the last 16 and to leave the tournament. And at the moment, all of the African countries, Nigeria, South Africa and Morocco, who advanced out of the group stage, are out of the tournament now. And of course, now we have the quarterfinals fixture set, and the games will begin on Friday or to the weekend. That's it for sports, brought to you by Pepsodent Herbal and Chaco. Pepsodent, every smile matters.
Ms. Bao, thank you very much. And you may have been unable to hear that ink set that Ms. Bao played earlier. Apologies there for that break there that we experienced while that sound was playing. You're still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. MFA, let's go to Niger because tonight there are concerns that the government will have to seek parliamentary approval before committing our troops to any military action in that particular country. As we know already, our defense minister, Dominic Nitiwol, had committed that Ghana will be participating in any military action that ECOWAS decides to embark on. But today we've been hearing from the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, who says the minister must be reminded he has an obligation to seek the approval of Parliament before contributing the troops. We'll hear from him pretty shortly, but listen to our defense minister.
ECOWAS has given the junta a 1-week ultimatum to hand over or face severe consequences, including the use of force. After the 1 week, we will seek the direction of the presidents exactly what they will do. But I can say that the member states are ready. If it means using force, the member states will be ready to do that.
But ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, as you've been saying, says he will not support Ghana's participation in any ECOWAS military intervention. We can hear from him.
Ghana's parliament must be consulted so far as Ghana's own commitment to the cause of the ECOWAS intended military intervention in Niger is concerned. So far, Ghana's parliament has not been consulted. And I'm saying this on authority. The approval of parliament has not been sought for Ghana to deploy boots in the Republic of Niger. And so I think the Minister for Defense must be reminded here that he has an obligation to seek parliamentary approval before Ghana can participate in any military intervention on foreign soil. So,
well, that's James Agaga there. Well, guess what, MFI? You know, the ECOWAS had resolved and giving an ultimatum, a Sunday close of day ultimatum to the Nigerians, junta there, to hand over power back to civilian government. That did not happen, and the threat was that if that fails, then they will consider the military options. Well, as we heard yesterday on PM Express, they wanted first to start talks, some diplomatic settlement, and use the threat of force as a last option. Listen to the ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Ambassador Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, speaking to me on PM Express yesterday, giving details of their diplomatic intervention.
ECOWAS has an array of tools in its arsenal as far as our fight to restore constitutional order in the region goes. You know, so we have to exhaust all these, tools in our toolbox. And the first of them, like we said, has been the shuttle diplomacy. Even as the deadline for the release of President Bazoum and the restoration of constitutional order, were passing, we were still insisting on the mediation angle of it. Tomorrow, I am joining a team from the UN, from ECOWAS, and then from the African Union to go back to Niger.
Well, they attempted today. What happened, Maxwell?
Well, that mission failed, and the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Niger released a statement citing insecurity, they say, in Niger, and they said that they cannot host the mission there.
And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of Newsnight. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am MF Apao.
And my name is Evans Mensah.